joined by Steve Kroner of the San Francisco Chronicle. Steve, it's good to have you back here in Moraga.
Alex, it's always a pleasure, particularly sitting next to you.
Well, you're welcome to stay if you'd like. I know you got work to do upstairs.
Little work to do. My bosses might not approve of that, but it might be fun.
You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, we always look forward to your commentary. I'll put it that way.
I appreciate it.
Well, so far, Steve, it hasn't been a particularly great effort by either team here in the first half.
Not a time capsule game yet.
Exactly, but St. Mary's does put on a nice run there at the end of the first half, and the bench production for the Gales is particularly impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think of Randy Bennett teams over the past decade, they really haven't had a whole lot of bench production. It's usually been the starting five and maybe one or two guys. And if I'm not mistaken, the bench has outscored the starting five tonight. I think it's like 18-15 for bench points. So Tanner Krebs was big. Jordan Ford had a nice little spurt there toward the end of the half. If it weren't for the bench, the Gales might be down right now.
You nailed it. It is 18-15. They don't call them the best in the business for nothing, folks. You mentioned Tanner Krebs. You mentioned Jordan Ford. Tanner Krebs is the guy that got off to, and I know this is your first time seeing St. Mary's in person, right? Tanner Krebs is the guy that got off to a slow start. Jordan Ford's minutes have fluctuated over the first couple weeks. But these are two guys that I know Randy Bennett and his crew really like. And maybe Randy Bennett's deepest team in his time here, at least on paper.
You would think, absolutely. I think Randy, when I talked to him before the season, his goal was to get at least a 9-man rotation. That he's been an 8-man rotation, sometimes 7 over the past few years. He wanted to get it to 9. He didn't know who that 9th man would be yet. He mentioned both Krebs and Ford, and maybe if they're both good enough, maybe it becomes a 10-man rotation.
Well, I think what you have to love about looking at this team is the different types of lineups that they can put onto the floor together. I mean, not until the Stanford game did they go with the bigger lineup, which is Landale and Pinot, really 2 5s on the floor at the same time.
Right.
But you can also play small here. I know they've experimented, at least in practice, with Kyle Clarke at the 5 and going that way. So you kind of got to like the pieces and how they fit together and how it can give St. Mary's so many different looks.
Right. I think the only hesitation I would have with something like that is sometimes you can almost have too many looks for your own good. I mean, one of the things that's been so good about St. Mary's for the past decade is it knows what it does well and does it. Sometimes if you have too many options, it's the old line about quarterbacks. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. If you have 5 different offensive systems, maybe you don't have the one that makes you as good as you can be.
San Diego, as Lamont Smith starts to kind of get this program underneath itself, if you will, or kind of building it brick by brick down there.
Right.
But listen, I mean, they were one of the worst shooting teams in the country last year, the Toreros were. They're much better this year, and they've got some guys that can finally make some shots. In this conference, you need that.
Yeah, they do. Bailey can shoot. Carter looked like he can shoot tonight.
Yep.
They are definitely undersized, I think, right now. But maybe it looks even more so when you're playing against Pinot and Landale. But I think they definitely could use some size. But, that bottom 7 of the conference, we're to say bottom 7, but it really is a bottom 7. Any of those 7, you could make the case that it could be number 4. In other words, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, Gonzaga, clearly the top 2 teams in the conference. BYU is almost assuredly the 3rd. But any of the other 7 on a given night can give teams trouble or can cause themselves a whole lot of trouble as well.
I think you look at the rest of those. I agree 100% with you, Steve. You look at the rest of these 7. You look at teams like Portland, like San Francisco, like Santa Clara. These teams those teams anyway, can beat you by scoring. They can score 85 on any given night.
Right. I mean, USF's been a very good 3-point shooting team. Kyle Smith, as most St. Mary's fans know, is a good coach. I think he will get the USF program probably maybe not back to the prominence it had when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s. Yes, I'm that old. But certainly USF can be better than what it's been the past 10 years, and Kyle has them playing pretty well. They did not play particularly well today, apparently, at the Levy Center, lost handily to Santa Clara. And Santa Clara is a team, if you hate to say that their one guy can make a difference, but if Jared Brownridge is hot, Santa Clara can beat just about anybody. And if he's not hot, Santa Clara is going to have a tough time beating anybody. And Portland with Alice Wintering is kind of, I think, a sleeper in the conference. I don't think a whole lot of people gave Portland much thought or even, even right now. But Portland's a team that if you don't play well, and Portland always has that advantage of when it's playing a home game, that teams either have just gone to Gonzaga and maybe spent as much as they can, or they're going to Gonzaga 2 nights later and they're kind of overlooking Portland. So Portland has an advantage in that regard. those three teams can give the top three teams problems.
I think LMU is another team that can. They play a different style almost than any other team in this conference, and they can kind of hang around and. I don't want to say ugly it up because they do have guys that can make some shots, but probably a longer athletic team than any other team in the conference besides Gonzaga.
Well, I mean, LMU is 0-2 right now, and it could make a case that it should be at least 1-1 and possibly 2-0. It gave St. Mary's all the Gales wanted to handle Thursday night, as you well know. That game was close until the final 3-4 minutes, and today it was up by 18 on BYU and wound up losing by 5. LMU's got to have some ability if it can give those top teams that much of a tussle.
Has Pepperdine, the way they've fallen off this year, has that surprised you? Because I don't think people realize how important Amadi Udini is to that team. Just what he brings, kind of like what we were talking about before the game, what Joe Rahan brings to St. Mary's. Amadi Udini does that same thing for Pepperdine, but they're just 4-9, Steve.
Yeah, I know they've had some injuries, but to say that I'm surprised that they're not one of the, they're not challenging the top three would be no, but you would think that they would be one of the next one or two, and they're not right now, and I don't know that they will be by the end of the season.
Gonzaga, they're every time I watch them, is this Mark Few's best team? I know we say that every year. Every year we say it, but is this his best team?
Again, I would hold off on that a bit. It's still early. I mean, Gonzaga played a tough non-conference schedule, but not as tough as it has played in the past. And I think one of the things that makes it a little bit hard to say that is because there are so many different new players for Gonzaga. I mean, you look what Randy has here, basically everybody back from last season. Gonzaga is still trying to fit the pieces together, I think. You got Nigel Williams-Goss from Washington. You've got
Williams from Missouri.
And I'm blanking on Cal, and a couple of freshmen. So Gonzaga is still putting the pieces together. Now it's unbeaten. It's still putting the pieces together. So I think it could be Mark Few's best team, but I think it's a little too early to say that.
He always finds a way to get his team playing, as Randy Bennett's done, actually. Right. Those two coaches always find a way to get their team playing the best they've played all year when we get around that when February turns to March. Yeah,
in fact, today Gonzaga was down at halftime at Pacific. And it just following that game a little bit, it looked like it was still a pretty tight game about midway through the second half. Gonzaga winds up winning by 20.
Is this, we'll do another kind of 10,000-foot question here, Steve. Is this the best the top two have ever been in the West Coast Conference?
I think this is the 9th season, assuming I do more games, the 9th season that I've been covering the conference on a pretty consistent basis. I will say this, to me, it's the widest gap between two and the rest of the conference. I don't know that it's St. Mary's best team. It might be. I don't know that it's Gonzaga's best team. It might be. But it hasn't been the gulf, the chasm between 2 and 3 as there is now, and between 3 and the rest of the conference as it appears to be now.
And I think now, Steve, we're starting to see in the depth of this conference, I think there's more talent coming into the conference. I think some of these teams that are in that 3 to 10 range or 4 to 10 range are better than they have been in past years.
Well, I think if you look at one team like that would be USF. It has one senior and one junior. The rest of that team is sophomore and freshman. And with Kyle Smith's coaching, maybe next season, perhaps 2 seasons down the road, the Dons could really be a tough team to handle.
With St. Mary's, ever since opening night, I'm not sure the Gales, and I think they would tell. I'm not sure they've put together a full 40 minutes of what they would consider really good basketball since that Nevada game. Just looking so far in this one, first time seeing them live, what's missing there here in the first 20 minutes?
It just seems that the crispness of the offense isn't quite what it's been. When you think of Randy Bennett teams over the past decade, it seemed like, pass, easy shot, pass, pick and roll. Somebody either gets a layup or there's the pass for a dunk. It just hasn't quite seemed to fit. Now, you've seen them obviously a lot more than I have, but even in the first half, and I've seen games on the web and on TV, it doesn't seem that the offense is quite as smooth flowing as it has been. But then again, you can look at it this way. The Gales are up 9. If they win this game, they haven't played a great 40 minutes since opening night, and they're still going to be 12-1 and 2-0. That's not bad.
I was just going to say, and on the flip side of that, they're still shooting 50% on the year, which is top 20 in the NBA, or NBA.
I don't want to brag, but when I was in high school, in layup drills, I was about 50%. So I think
fit right in.
Exactly.
Right in.
Layup
Get the guy in Jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and the other part of that is much more room to get better for St. Mary's. And I think every coach on this staff and every player on this team will tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, to play a devil's advocate on that, St. Mary's still has played very good defense, maybe better defense than St. Mary's has played over the past few years. So as much better as I think it can be offensively, I don't know that it can be a whole lot better defensively.
Yeah, third in the country in scoring defense. Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining us again. We always appreciate having you in the house, and when you're back, we'll have to strap it up again.
I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Steve Kroner of the San Francisco Chronicle. And we will now hear from the coach. It's Marty Clarke. Is it tough? In a game like this where there's almost no flow, and 36 fouls in this one, especially in the second half, is it tough to kind of really flow offensively on either side of the floor, really, when there are so many stoppages?
Oh, no doubt. And a lot of those fouls were our fault, and we didn't move our feet, stuck our hands in, and probably let some individual players do what they like to do, as in their tendencies. I'm trying to always take those guys away from their preference, and then they got by us, got to the basket, we reached in and fouled. So a lot of that's our own fault, but it wouldn't have been a pretty game to watch, I don't think. But it's a win, and a win is a win in conference play. And those guys had a really good second half against USF after they got down big in game one.
Yeah, like we talked about before this game, they've been playing well, and coming into that USF game, they had won. I think it was 5 straight. Yeah, it was 5 straight, including a road win over North Texas coming into that game. I mean, you can see how they can give you problems. They have some guys that can shoot the ball. Olin Carter's a pretty good shot maker. Tyler Williams can give you problems with his size on the perimeter, and Brett Bailey plays the great motor. Yeah,
and they don't play with a center. They really play 5 out. They might move a guy into the post, but he gets out of there fairly quickly. But there's no legitimate back to the basket players, and that's not how we're built as a team. Probably lucky that we've got Dane. Dane, who's a 4-5, but he can defend a 4, he can defend a 5. So we end up, Dane probably played his season high in minutes simply because of what they were presenting to us. And Bailey's really more of a 3, but he played the 4, and he got his season average, which I guess was a little disappointing, because that's obviously one of the guys we keyed in on trying to keep under his season average. But he's a good player, he's a good athlete, and his senior's been around, so he knows what he's doing.
Is that why we saw less of Jock Landale in this game, because of the matchups? I mean, it looked like he was having to defend on the perimeter quite a bit.
Yeah, he actually started on that 3-man, which might seem a little bit strange, but I thought he did a half reasonable job until he got a little tired, and then the imbalance in athleticism, got blown by a couple of times, and we went with the decision just to play him when their big guy came in off the bench.
How about your guys coming off the bench tonight? Tanner Krebs stepped right in for Calvin Hermanson, who had to come out with 2 fouls. Hits 4 threes, played good defense too. And of course, Jordan Ford was a shot in the arm offensively there in the first half. We talked about Dane and also Kyle Clarke.
Yeah, no, all 4 of those guys did a great job. They came straight on the floor and didn't look nervous. Like they knew what they wanted to do and stuck to a game plan. And I thought the bench really helped us out, because we were struggling early. We were struggling just to score to start with, and then we get it to a 5 and we couldn't push it past 5 points. And really the guys that came off the bench did a great job. And Tanner in particular, who hadn't played a lot leading to this first week of conference, and you would never have known it if it's the first game you've seen. You would have thought, well, Tanner's been a major player for the whole season.
There were a couple of moments in that first half when you kind of tell it was going to be a good bench. I mean, Tanner Krebs, no hesitation on his first catch and shoot 3. And then Jordan Ford, when he was crossing half court here in transition, hesitated for a second, or kind of stopped, saw a lane, and just took it right to the basket. And you love that kind of aggressiveness off the bench.
Yeah, well, certainly off the bench, but that's kind of how we need to get our other 2 guards playing. They really use the half court as a starting point and get the ball over that as quickly as you can. And if there's an advantage, you play to the advantage, which is exactly how Jordan played. And particularly in that possession, that's how he plays, rather than having the starting point back at the 94-foot mark and then having to sort of walk it up. We want to get a bit more pace into our game, and Jordan definitely does that.
We talked about the turnovers before this game, 9 tonight, so we're progressing there.
Yeah, and I would think probably only 2 or 3 in the second half. I think we probably at 6 or 7 at half time, and then did a really good job the second half of looking after the ball. And granted, some of those turnovers have been illegal screens and rebounding over the back, and a few kind of Now they're not turnovers as far as skill deficiencies. They're really those unfortunate ones. We had another guy step out of bounds today, but 9 turnovers is right where we want it. It allows us to get more shots up, and when we shoot it at 51 and 47, then the more shots we can get, obviously the better it is for us.
Again, I think you kind of capitalize on two of the biggest areas you have an advantage here in the paint and off the bench. Just looking at the scoring numbers, doubled up San Diego inside, and the bench points 35-5.
Yeah, and we were double. Yeah, we had 32 in the paint. I would have probably thought we could have gone up in the 40s, and we maybe should have done a better job of that. Certainly early, we should have been able to take advantage of that a little bit better. But the bench points was, as we said before, was just a great performance by those guys that were clearly locked in and ready to play.
No doubt about it. Well, now you get a few days off again, and we'll be in the Bay Area actually for 2 games next week, as it'll be BYU and San Francisco. But this schedule, I mean, how do you adjust? How do you adjust to playing on the road on a Thursday, flying back on your day off?
It's obviously different than what it's been in the past, where you either were 2 at home and then 2 on the road, and you knew exactly where you're going, what you're doing, what your scheduling is going to be as far as your lead up to it, and also your recovery from games. I mean, it's new territory for everybody, and I guess we're learning as we go. BYU at home, we've got a good run into them, as in we've got time to get a good scout out there and really know exactly what they're doing. And then you're in a bus and driving down to San Francisco, which is probably not as bad as getting on a plane and heading somewhere, but it's still a road trip. And I don't know whether we'll make that many adjustments from what we did this week, other than the travel is reversed. But everyone's got to do it, so there's no real advantage or disadvantage.
Marty, thanks for your time. Happy New Year.
And
congratulations on the win, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Okay, thanks, AJ.
Marty Clarke, brought to you by Shamrock Office Solutions, delivering digital copier and technology solutions to the Bay Area for over 15 years. Visit them online at shamrockoffice.com. And now it's time for our Crown Plaza Player of the Game. Other way, flip it around. There you go. Yeah, other ear. Yeah, and it is
awesome.
12 points off the bench. It's Jordan Ford. Clearly a first-timer here because he puts the headset on the wrong way.
Definitely.
First of all, let's get this out of the way, man, because I know, and I'm sure this is widespread now. I'm not the first person to ask you about this, but you are quite the chess player.
Yes, I am. I won 2 state championships when I was a little kid. Instead of going to preschool, I was in there playing chess with my dad, so I learned from a really young age from him.
So is your dad pretty good at chess too, or did he just kind of teach you the rules and you kind of ran with it?
No, he's pretty good. He was my teacher, so he had to know a lot about the game to be able to teach me. So once I started learning maybe a little bit more than him, then he passed me over to a higher level coach.
Well, it's paid off. maybe a Bobby Fischer type of career for you after basketball.
Love Bobby Fischer.
All right, well, you've seen that movie, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, let's talk about this one here. I mean, I asked Marty the same question to start. Is it tough playing in a game like this where there's so many stopping? I mean, 36 total fouls. There wasn't really much of a flow to this game for the most part. Is it tough to play in a game like that where you kind of stop and go so much?
It's a little tougher than a regular game, but we just got to make it happen. We just got to find flow in the offense and trust the system. So
yeah, no doubt. Well, you certainly yourself and Tanner Krebs, at least from a scoring perspective. I mean, Dane's been kind of doing what he's done all year off the bench, along with Kyle Clark. But you and Tanner Krebs, it seems like you guys have both settled into a nice role here. Yourself in the backcourt and Tanner subbing in for Calvin, and both of you made your presence felt tonight, not just scoring wise. With the 24 combined points, but just 2 turnovers between the two of you in 23 minutes. Right. Is that kind of how you see your role now? I mean, subbing in there for Emmett Nahr and knowing you're going to get somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes a game?
Definitely. I'm just trying to make most of my minutes, whether it's 15 minutes or 8 minutes. I know the coaches are making great decisions. Maybe Emmett's having a really good game, and I might not play that much that game, but it's just all about staying ready. Me and Tanner just making sure that we're ready off the bench.
Yeah, with some of the, I know Stephon Gonzalez has been fighting a bug lately, so that's why we haven't seen him the last couple of games. For yourself, you kind of came in and gave this team a shot in the arm. I was saying to Marty, there was a nice moment when you crossed half court here before your transition layup where you kind of hesitated for a second, you saw the lane, and you took it right there. That aggressiveness is part of your game.
Yeah, definitely. I train a lot, so I
know you do.
I trust. I trust myself to be aggressive in situations like that because I've trained it so many times. So I'm looking to be aggressive when I come in.
And you're also ready to shoot off the catch, as we saw from both corners, although one of them didn't. I'm not sure. Did you step on the sideline here?
I'm not sure. I didn't think I was because I was towing the line, but maybe the ref saw something I didn't see. So.
But always ready to shoot, though. I mean, because you've got that range out to 3-point.
Definitely. Always ready to shoot. I get up a lot of shots, so I got to be ready to shoot when I get the opportunity.
So playing behind a couple of all-conference guards in Nar and Rayhan, have you picked anything from them? Because I know there's a big difference between high school and Division I level. Speed of the game obviously changes, but what's kind of the most important thing you've learned just watching those guys operate?
I'm just learning how to sometimes slow the game down because I'm a quick guard. So in high school, I was able to just use my speed to get by people. Just being able to slow the game down off of maybe an on ball or something like that. Emmett Nar is one of the best passing guards I've ever seen coming off an on ball. So just picking up a lot from him, watching some of his film and being able to pick apart what I can do to make the best play.
Nobody has scored over 60 since you guys played UAB back on November 27th. And I know you guys really pride yourselves on your defense, and that's really taken another step up here, especially in the last month or so. Has anything changed for you guys, or you just kind of had individual guys just kind of gradually get better as this year goes on?
I think it's definitely just gradually getting better as the year goes on. We work a lot on defense in practice, and we take pride in it. So over the course of the year, we're going to get better defensively.
And in conference now, it's crazy. Everybody knows all your tendencies. All these teams know each other so well. And you can see, with a team like San Diego, it's kind of just getting their feet underneath them as a program. It seemed like they had the scout down on you guys, and vice versa. I mean, I know nobody works harder than you guys on the scout, but in West Coast Conference play, have you seen a difference there with how teams kind of know everybody's tendencies and try to stop what you do?
Yeah, definitely. Especially for the guys that have been playing in the league for maybe 3 years or 4 years. They definitely know each other's tendencies and probably watch a lot more film because league's a lot more important than the preseason. So they definitely pride themselves in that.
Best part is you get to sleep in your own bed here for the next week and a half or so.
Definitely.
That schedule, it kind of threw me for a loop when I saw the schedule come out. It's like at LMU and then back at home. It's just kind of it's a little different. It's a little different.
I wouldn't know because I wouldn't. It's my first year, so it's all new to me. So.
Well, let me tell you, if this were last year, we'd still be in LA playing Pepperdine tonight. So exactly. Yeah. But we'll get used to it. It's good because, I mean, like you said, you didn't know before.
Right.
Well, Jordan, thanks so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on. Happy New Year, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Jordan Ford, our Crown Plaza Player of the Game.